Good evening, friends. Time for another week where we pretend we know what we're doing in college football, and Dan apparently just lounges on a singular high score, even though half of his fucking team is hurt right now. Dan,
Don't care. I beat Taylor. Taylor's having a terrible week in every aspect of everything for him. I feel great.
It's not a great week for Taylor, and now you're in the national championship of our little dynasty. See if Mason can be the first national champion to beat a human for every round of the playoffs. That would be pretty damn impressive for this first year of the playoffs. But that's neither here nor there. Dan, it was a weird week 5, as you've already pointed out, because you went from ranked last to high score in the league.
Well, first of all, we're not ranked last. You held that ground with your no points having team.
No, I had. Was I ranked? Was I last week?
We were both 1-3, and I had you beat by a lot of points because you scored 48 that 1 week.
Well, then JR's just been last this entire time because he's still a win behind all.
Yeah, him too. It was interesting. So what's fun about last week is not only was I high score, my bench even scored 50, which is more than what your starters did a couple weeks ago.
That's true. That is absolutely true. And yet we're still tied for the exact same spot, which all the way runs up to, I think, 4th. Actually, let me just pop this up on the screen right now. Oh, is it 6th? Yeah. So feasibly, everybody in the league still has a shot at the playoffs, though injuries are starting to take in. Dan, I think this jumps us right into what we learned. My thing for the week was, what a week for the Atlanta Falcons. JR won by 20. Kirk Cousins beat Patrick Mahomes by 30. Cousins basically won that matchup for him. Kenny won by 1. Drake London outscored Rob's 2 wide receivers by 13. So Drake London big in that. And then possibly bonehead move of the week. Taylor already called it out. Eric drops money on Darnell Mooney and then drops Darnell Mooney when he scores almost 30 points. If Eric keeps Mooney over Dontavian Wicks, and I get it, we were all bought in on Dontavian Wicks, but if Eric keeps Mooney and starts him over Dontavian Wicks, Eric takes a win last week. The Atlanta Falcons could have changed fortunes in our league last week.
Yeah, crazy week. Hopefully, as someone who bought in to a lot of Atlanta Falcons this year, thinking that that was the offense you were going to see this year, I hope it's not just a 1 week thing, and this is what's going to actually be happening moving forward.
I actually did have notes for you on the high score, as I always do. High score with only a 5 from Keenan Allen and a big old 0 from your IDP. But I am noticing the injuries on your bench right now are starting to wipe out your bench. If you
My bench is none of your concern.
Better be your damn concern. And then my final note I had, Dan, I thought this was interesting. Only 2 teams scored fewer than 100 points last week, and none scored fewer than 90. And those 2 teams are the only 2 who did not beat their weekly projections. So 12 out of 14 had a really good week last week.
Yeah, it was
even though most of us lost. So
actually, only half of us lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Math
gets me every time. Do you have any other notes for week 5 before we move on?
My face hurts from smiling so much.
Damn. One little win taking you from, what was it then, 12th to 9th. Just put you on cloud 9. I'm happy for you, man. That's
nothing better than beating Taylor.
That's true.
Actually, beating anyone that's related to you just makes me happy.
That's fine. Me and Taylor are the best ones. I don't think Stevie gets as upset as me and Taylor do. But me and Taylor are definitely poor losers. I'm sure he got that from me. So beating us is the way to go.
See, I disagree. I think Steve is the biggest person in your family as far as taking it. He quit. He literally quit. He got tired of losing.
That's fair. I just threatened to quit.
And he threatened to quit again. So he's like the diet version of McGuire.
I like it. That's true. I just threatened to quit, get all upset. I was playing Todd in college football this week, and he threw a couple picks, and he had heard about. I shared the story with him about how I get all upset when I'm playing you, and he had threw a couple of picks, and he says, "I think I'm about to have to throw a Ryan Weiss temper tantrum," and I was like, "This is the exact situation where I would be throwing a temper tantrum." So I fully endorse that move.
Listen, if you're telling people about your temper tantrums, that's on you.
I tell everybody.
I don't tell anybody about your temper tantrums.
First of all, most people in this league in one way, shape, or form have experienced one of my temper tantrums. Maybe not necessarily about college football where everything gets handed to you and nothing's earned. Speaking of everything getting handed to somebody, Dan, I need to talk to you.
I'm all ears, buddy.
One trade this week, and you sell Tank Bigsby for a 4. And I feel like you gave him away. I don't know if I'm too high on Tank Bigsby. I want to tell you this thought process. And this is 100% true, Dan. I was looking at your team. I said, who has Tank Bigsby? And I saw it was you. And I didn't send an offer because I'm like, he's not trading him. And there's no way we're going to get a deal done.
I sent an offer, man.
I should have fucking sent an offer. But more importantly, Dan, if someone's going to send you dog shit like what Rob sent you, maybe come to the guy with all the draft picks and see if maybe the guy who doesn't have Christian McCaffrey needs a running back. Shop around, my guy. Don't just give it to the first guy who wags his penis at you. Make it where he has to earn it. And I could have earned it.
What would your offer have been?
2 4s.
2 4s. Would you have thrown in the fab money?
I would have given you the rest of my fucking fab money.
Well, you should have made that offer then.
And Rob, if you want to resell Tank Bigsby, 2 4s and some fab money.
Why are you so high on him?
I watched the kid play for 2 weeks now. The kid looks like a better runner than Travis Etienne. I think the Jaguars like him. I think Travis Etienne's about to slide into more of a pass catching role. He's only 23 or 24 years old. I like everything about him right now.
Well, so here's my thought process is one, do I think he's going to get a little more playing time? Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be more than a 50-50 and on a terrible offense. If he had gotten those looks last week that he did really well with, and they had just went to him because he was looking better than Etienne, I would never have traded him. The only reason he even got those looks is because Etienne hurt his shoulder and Etienne's back this week.
Everybody's hurt.
They like
Etienne was hurt the week before as well.
I don't need a 50-50 running back. I need the 4th round pick. I need the fab. If it wasn't for that fab, I wouldn't have got Mooney.
That's
I literally had an offer in for 81 because I only had 87 left. The other person Eric had put in for 86 to get him back, I think. That getting the fab I got in that trade allowed me to get him. Okay. I traded him for a 4 and Mooney. I'll take it.
I feel better about that. That's a good way to look at it.
That was my thinking. I wanted Rob offered me a different offer. I countered back with a higher draft pick of the 4 and the fab. Actually, I asked for 50 in fab. He countered back with the same draft pick and 40 instead, and I accepted.
And all you needed was what? 2 in fab just to make sure you could go 1 higher than what everyone thought you were going to go? Or
Well, no, I didn't know what anybody. I wanted to go higher than 81. I felt like he was going to go for more.
And you were right.
I wanted him. I needed him. I got him.
I'll give you that now. It makes a little bit more sense. Because I also saw him go in a dynasty this week for a super cheap price. I don't even remember what it was now, but I saw him go into dynasty this week. And I'm just
also. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I guess obviously I buy too much into recency bias. So I just thought that the kid looked really good. And in leagues where keepers are a thing, and he's probably not a keeper, but certainly in a dynasty, I just felt like he was going too cheap. And I saw your trade and that trade on the exact same day. So.
And I'm not saying I couldn't have potentially gotten more. I assumed that nobody was going to go higher than Rob because Rob has ETN. He needed him.
I need running backs.
2 weeks ago, I had a waiver claim in for somebody else who I was literally cutting him because he hadn't done anything. 2 weeks ago, he literally had like a 0 in a game. I just don't think he's gone from that to superstar in 2 weeks. I don't see it. If it happens, great. I have egg on my face. I hope he does great things for Rob, boost Rob into the playoffs.
In one of my leagues, I went to go see if I could put a waiver claim in for him, and I looked at the history, and I was the one who dropped him. I didn't even remember having him on my roster, but I dropped him right before he popped off. So
yeah, see, that's what happens. Like so that's why I was like, I might as well get something while I can because he could literally go out this week and get 4 carries, and I get nothing for him.
Like I said, it was the only trade this weekend. I thought you undersold, but again, your logic makes a lot of sense, and you were pressed to get Darnell Mooney and make sure you had the waiver claim money in. So I'm a little bit better with it when you look at it as Mooney and a 4th for Bigsby, and it's a great trade for Rob as well because I did notice on Rob's team, and I'll talk about this more when we get to his game. Rob is really bought in on very specific teams where he has their like 1 and their 2, and he just needs one of them to get hurt, and he'll be good as long as both of them don't get hurt. Dan, looking back at our picks, this has never happened before. We all went under 500. I went 3 and 4. You and Darren went 2 and 5. That has put me and you into a tie in the game, 20-15. or 20 wins, 15 incorrect, and Darren's at 18 and 17. Darren did not send me his picks tonight. I don't know if he just got caught up with anything. I'm sure he'll get those to me as we go. But Dan, let's get into some of these week 6 matchups as I scroll back up. Again, we're going to take them in order. I got one game out of order where I'll talk about the game of the week. So first game is going to be me versus Rob P. I had Geno Smith go on Thursday night. He actually had 2 people go on Thursday. Not a great night from Nick Bosa, but overall not a bad night from the San Francisco defense. So he is currently winning by 5, projected to win by 12. Dan, what do you see happening this week?
I think he gets the win. I'm going with him. AJ Brown going against that terrible Cleveland defense. He could have a big game. Not having Neighbors keeps it maybe a little closer at receiver. But I just don't think you have the firepower to withstand without McCaffrey.
I 1000% agree. I have him picked 2, and I even said it should be a blowout when I did my little thing. He just kills me at every offensive position. However, and this is to keep it close, not to get a win, I need my defense and special teams players to go off. And Max Crosby is the kind of guy who could pop off for a week. I don't know if it's going to be this week because that team is just in shambles. But I need them to go off to even keep this close, or we could be talking about another Ryan Weeks embarrassment next week. Dan, that brings us over to Stevie versus Darren. Both had Thursday players, so Darren got 18 points basically out of Kenneth Walker. Stevie got 13 out of Tyler Lockett. I would say, interestingly enough, 18 is what you hope for out of Kenneth Walker. I think Stevie got a good week out of Tyler Lockett, so that kind of favored Stevie. I'll get us started here. Right now, Stevie is projected to win this matchup by 6, and I do have Stevie winning. I think Baker Mayfield at quarterback and his wide receivers just give him a big advantage this week. I do like Trey McBride a lot as well, which is also going for Stevie's team. One thing I wanted to look at, and I don't know if he made the change yet. He did. Okay, never mind. I was literally in my notes said, if Devin Singletary's out, would you start Tyrone Tracy over Zach Moss? But he has already made the change with Devin Singletary being maxed out. Tyrone Tracy was a guy, Dan, I liked a lot after doing my draft prep, and I liked the Giants' draft position for him, draft landing spot for him. He actually led the NFL in rushing yards last week.
Interesting. Did not realize that.
Yeah, kid's interesting. So, yeah, I got Stevie winning this one on the back of just a very big advantage at wide receiver, quarterback, and even tight end.
I look at Stevie's advantage as his team over Darren's, and I think he'll win.
Yeah, I mean,
Darren's team's just a hot mess. Even when Mahomes is playing. I especially don't like Lawrence. I think Chicago's defense is underrated. I don't know that anybody's had a big game against them.
They have not. And Chicago actually has the 3rd-rated fantasy defense right now as well. That doesn't always necessarily mean bad points against, but I don't believe a quarterback has had a good game against them. I think you're right.
The thing that now a part of our Rob and I's trade with Chicago and Pittsburgh defense was involved as well. I originally picked up Chicago's defense for this game, but I was actually relieved when we made the trade and I was able to get Pittsburgh's defense because they have a couple weeks here in a row where they're just going against not very good teams. But these London games, these 9:30 in the morning games, always make me nervous. I just had a bad experience once where I had some good players who I had high hopes for going against a terrible team. I think Jacksonville was actually involved in that, and they all just laid eggs against them. So those trips make me nervous. So I was happy to not have to worry about that Chicago defense this week.
And if you want to further jinx, Dan, Chicago is my stream of the week at defense this week on my
article. So glad I don't have them this week.
You know it's going to be terrible, though. I don't know if you'll be happy, sad, or what to know, Dan. I was the number 1 ranked Fantasy Pros ranker of defense and special teams last week. Number 1 in the entire country. So.
I know I joke with you about your picks and stuff, but no, I'm happy to hear that, man. That's awesome. Proud of you.
Thank you, buddy. I was shocked to see that. I was number 17 in the overall rankings for week 5, but number 1 on defense and special teams. So, Darren, you said you got your picks in. I'll look at the phone and get them in the sheet, but I don't keep my phone anywhere near me when I podcast. So you're not getting announced on this show, buddy. And Stevie said that he's just inching closer to missing the playoffs, which I feel like, again, Dan, that's 73% of the league right now.
Outside of our guy, Rob P, ain't nobody assured of anything.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's definitely a weird one. Dan, we're going to move on to your favorite person in the league. We got Phil taking on JR. Phil jumps out to an early lead, 20 points. That's 4 from Brandon Ayuk, but 16 out of Fred Warner. You're welcome, Phil. My games I'm playing with IDP bite me in the ass a little bit there. I don't like putting 16-point linebackers out there for the world. Phil is projected to win this one by 19 right now, Dan, and I have him keeping that win. I said this could be good, could be close, and I actually have that week from Warner kind of being the thing that gives him the edge. I think it's mainly cancels out at every position. However, a big advantage for Phil. I like Kirk Cousins this week, but Dak Prescott's taking on the Detroit Lions. The last time we saw Detroit play football, Geno Smith threw for 395 yards for them. I shudder to think what Dak Prescott could do against the defense if Geno Smith is throwing for 395 yards, and Dallas really can't run the ball, man.
I think it's going to be a close game, and I want to pick JR, not because I despise Phil. Just kidding, Phil. I love you. Tell Jesse I said hi. I feel like they have Kirk Cousins projected at 13 points is way low. And I think if that offense has turned the corner, he could have a monster game against Carolina.
I mean, he went for 5 bills and 4 touchdowns Thursday night. So
I think he could have a monster game and keep this close, but I am going to take Phil for the win. But I think this is going to be a close game. I could even see JR pulling out this win and just putting everybody in the last place altogether.
Yeah, that would just be absolutely hilarious. Dan, we move on to Horvath versus Steve Horvath versus Terry Wagner. They grew up a block away from each other. Terry jumps out to an early lead. He has 19.9, all of that coming from a great game from George Kittle, 2 touchdowns this week. Horvath has 6.32. It's a disappointing game from Jordan Mason. Right now, Terry projected to win this one by 23 points. What do you got going on here, Dan?
First, I want to tell Steve I'm sorry for beating this kid so bad in college football. It got quite awkward when he stopped talking to me midway through the game, but gotta get to these ships, man.
Was Steve not in the background chirping the entire time, Horvath?
He stopped talking too.
Oh, okay. So he
was talking at first, but then when I went up 21-3, it got real quiet.
I guess so when he and I have played, it's been close games. He kind of ran away with the last one in the fourth quarter. This last one, we went to overtime, but everybody was talking the entire time. So yeah, Dan, you're out here ruining the Horvath family. Way to go, dickhead.
I am. I felt bad. His daughters were sitting there. I could hear them in the background. They had to come back to school,
crying over the corpse of their brother.
They had to come to school the next day and be like, "Why'd you have to beat him so bad?"
Right. College football. We're giving Darren the FOMO. Darren every week texts me that he wishes he had a PS5 so he could be a part of this. I said next year they're supposed to make it cross-gen, so we'll be able to have even more fun with it next year.
Or just get a PS5. They're readily available.
PS5. Yeah. All right, Dan. Who the fuck you got winning this?
But I'm taking Terry to get the win here. Again, I'm sorry, Steve, but anybody starting Drake May, I'm not expecting you to win anything.
Yeah, that's almost word for word what my notes have. I said it's the perfect week to catch Horvath. You get a bad game from Jordan Mason, and his wide receivers are on bye. Terry wins every position, and then I put Dan, and that QB battle could get ugly. Drake May versus Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, I feel like he's had some off games. A 2-point game, an 8-point game, a 12-point game. That's not what Terry drafted that man to do.
No, but Horvath is also starting Theo Johnson, someone I like coming out of college, but I don't think this is going to be the right week for it. It's like I said, the bye weeks for Horvath, losing Sam Darnold, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, all in the same week. So that's a rough one. So clearly I am also picking Terry, and I do have this as my blowout of the week. I managed to pay attention last week for my blowout of the week. It ended up being like a 12-point matchup. So me picking a game as a blowout means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. We got you versus Greg. Greg jumps out to a 10-point lead. You got 6 points on Thursday night. That was coming from your kicker, Jason Myers. Greg got 16 points or 18. Sorry. Text is a little bit small. 18 points, all from Deebo Samuel having an absolute monster game. I'll get us started as I always do in your matchups. It's actually shook out pretty even, but I actually just like his running back battles. And then that big day from Deebo, which is already in the books. I'm going to give this matchup to Greg. I do think Brian Thomas Jr. could easily match that. There are concerns of it being a London game, but the fact that Deebo's is already in the books. But when you look at the quarterbacks, I like both of your quarterbacks. When you look at the running backs, I Love David Montgomery. I don't care for Najee Harris. Both of your guys dealing with injuries right now. I'm far more concerned about James Cook than I am
You need to
Chase
stop
Brown.
talking real quick. We have a mid-show trade just went down in our league.
Oh my God.
We have Stevie trading Keon Coleman and Bryce Hall. Or no, he's getting Bryce Hall and Keon Coleman for Reed and Moss.
Wow. All right, Dan, break it down. What do you think about this? So JR sends a New York Jet. Again, I need to do better about trades. I've looked at JR's team a couple of times. I'm like, he's not going to trade Breece Hall. He's a Jets fan. But apparently Jaden Reed was enough to get him to come off of that.
I think you could have got more. Maybe you should have put it out there like I should have put it out there, but maybe you got more. Zach Moss, while he's put up some decent numbers on some games, I know the Bengals are loving what Chase Brown has been doing when he gets in the game. They've been utilizing him more, especially in the red zone. I would not be expecting a ton from him. Like I think you're going to see his production continue to go down as the season goes on. And even just as a fan watching the game, when you see Chase Brown come into the game, his speed and his ability to hit the hole, I think he's going to gradually take that job over.
Yeah, he's different. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So big win for Stevie in that trade. I'm a big Jaden Reed guy, and I think it's pretty clear Jaden Reed's the winner of the Green Bay Packers wide receiver battle as well. So this could shake out in JR's favor, but I think this could be a good Breece Hall week too. Buffalo gives up a ton of points to the running back.
I don't like Keon Coleman, so I think that's a big loss for Steve going from Reed to Coleman, but he gains a lot. I mean, maybe that's how you got to look at this trade. Maybe it is more even because.
Well, let me pop over to Steve's team. Have we talked about his team yet?
We did. We already talked about their game.
Well, now do we have to change our winner? Probably not. Can he sustain it? So he has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Lockett. He doesn't have to start. So he doesn't want to start Tyrone Tracy every week, though he will at some point. So I guess he's hoping for good things out of Christian Kirk or Devontae Adams, because I also don't care for. I like Keon Coleman as a player. I think his personality is one of the best in the league. It's Marlia's favorite player already from the interviews.
Oh, love his interviews. Think he's hilarious, but I just don't like him as a football player.
I think he had one catch last week. It was a touchdown catch, but it was like one catch for 47 yards. He may have stepped out of bounds, but they gave him the touchdown. So definitely a boomer bust kind of guy, kind of like Gabe Davis, who left Buffalo. So he might just be the next Gabe Davis.
Yeah, he had 5 targets last week, which ain't terrible. 1 catch for 49 yards and a touchdown. But he's had 2 other games this year where he only had 1 target.
Yep.
And then that one game
was out last week.
And the one game he had that 1 target was a catch and was also a touchdown.
So he's Mike Evans light. Remember when Mike Evans was having those 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown games? So again, the boomer bust nature of Keon Coleman, I agree. It's a weird trade. I won't even say it's a weird trade. Breece Hall, I would have not expected JR to trade, plain and simple. I thought he would hold on to him for a while. I know it's been a rough week so far, or season for Breece so far, but I do think this is a week against Buffalo where he could get right, especially with Aaron Rodgers dealing with that ankle injury. I think they're going to lean on the run a lot this week.
But that I will say that when you look at JR's receivers now of Reed, Evans, and Wilson, that's a nice set of 3.
Great receiving core, and running backs have been a dime a dozen this season. Maybe JR's looking at this better. Maybe Stevie got fleeced. Back to your game, Dan. Like I said, I'm giving Greg the slight edge mainly because he had a good day on the books from his wide receiver already.
Yeah, I agree. Greg's team's been winning. He's getting enough points. He's not killing people, but his team's doing enough. Love going against Arizona. You like that? Like you said, with Samuel already got. Godwin will probably end up being the number 1 for Tampa Bay against New Orleans because Mike Evans get kicked out for fighting.
Kicked out right away. Evans did address that this week, and that he gets too emotional.
Like you said, my team is hurting, not in a great spot. So I'm going to go with Greg to get the win as well.
There you go. They're flaming you in the chat right now for calling him Bryce Hall.
Whatever, I don't care. New York Jets are irrelevant, and so are their players,
exactly.
Other than Wilson.
We don't need to know these people's names. And as I mentioned,
we actually have people watching the show in the chat now.
Yeah, we got Taylor, Stevie, Darren. I think that's it right now, though. Taylor, Stevie, and Darren are the.
So all 3 of these guys are flaming me.
Exactly. Taylor just said it's a weird trade. Taylor did not approve of the trade. So
well,
I'm going to leave the Taylor Mott's game because both at 2-3, both with decent teams. I'm calling that the game of the week, Dan. So I'm going to move us over to Eric and Kenny. No Thursday players. Eric, I believe. Oh, no, he does have all starters now. So Eric, both teams have full rosters. Eric projected to lose this week by 14 points, Dan. Not a great week. And for that reason, I'm actually picking Kenny. I think Kenny loses at quarterback, but that's been the nature of the game so far for Kenny. However, Jamar Chase, Drake London, and I even like Dallas Goedert to be set up for a good week this week. I think that's going to make up for what he's losing at quarterback, and I think their running backs can kind of cancel each other out. I'm giving Kenny another win here, taking Kenny to 4-2 on the season.
I'm actually going to go against that. I'm going to go with Eric to get the win. I do want to say Eric pulled off a weird move this week. I didn't quite. You were involved. We cut Racine Rice for a tight end projected to score 2 points.
Yeah, well, he picked up Brenton Strange, and now they're saying Evan Ingram's playing, so he's just going to end up cutting Brenton Strange and have to sign another tight end somewhere. And then I do love, Dan, I don't know if you've paid attention to my drops this season, but I have dropped some primo talent. Isaac Horrendo sits on my bench for weeks doing absolutely nothing. I drop him, and he busts a 75-yard, almost touchdown run, but goes down at the 1-yard line on purpose on that Thursday night game. I'm just chef's kiss when it comes to dropping players in this league.
It's important that you're consistent. And last year you dropped Puka Nacua, so
that's right. I'm out here just dropping stars. But how do you feel about that, Dan? Rashee Rice now sitting on my IR. I don't know if he's a keeper next year, especially with the suspension issues. But I have a team that's in dire straits when it comes to keepers right now.
You're in need. I get why you picked him up. I think he had more value for Eric's team. I will say that I think Racine Rice is just trash. Probably his whole family is trash. You see his mom? Mm-hmm. This man's mom just got caught on someone's door cam, like stealing packages from in front of their porch. Like, you are an NFL, your son's an NFL player, and you're stealing packages.
Good Lord, no! I didn't hear any of
criminals. No, the whole team, their whole family is just criminals.
Maybe that's why Eric dropped him. Eric doesn't want trash like that on his team.
Yeah, there's someone's video camera on their door caught her stealing their packages from off their apartment or whatever door.
Good God. Yeah, that's a strange one. But yeah, to give Eric his due on Brenton Strange, I actually like Brenton Strange a lot. But Brenton Strange only matters if Evan Ingram doesn't play. But Brenton Strange, during this Ingram injury, what is that? 18 targets over 4 weeks, which is good volume from the tight end position. So
I get it. Things can happen, but I just think if you're going to cut that level of player, put it out there and see if you can get something first. I think he could have got something there.
Taylor's saying I have to go cut Rashee Rice too because I don't want trash like that on my team. Nope, Taylor, I accept all trash. I don't care who they are. Come to my team, be trash on my team like the rest of my team. He'll just fit in with the rest of us. And Dan, that brings us to what I think
you're like the Cleveland Browns of fantasy football.
I am right now. That's absolutely true. I better quarterback though I could go sign Deshaun Watson. He's a free agent right now. Both teams 2-3.
Browns wish he was a free agent right now.
Yeah. Both teams 2-3 between Taylor and Rob. Both teams got like mediocrity out of Thursday night from the same position. Jackson Smith and Jigba goes for 7.6 points. DK Metcalf goes for 5.4. You could argue that's a bigger knock on Rob than it is on Taylor, but I'll let you go get a start us on this one as well, Dan.
Oh, man. Rob has been my guy. I've been big on his team all year. And now he's sitting here with the rest of us at 2-3 with his best players hurt. It's not a good. I mean, he needs to get Collins on his IR and go pick somebody else up.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone's I don't know if everyone's thinking of the old rules where we could only put COVID players on IR. We got rid of that last year. You have that one IR spot. Use it as you see fit. Get Nico Collins on your IR. Fill that spot out, buddy.
Devonta Smith going against the Browns. He could have a big game because the Browns are awful. Yeah,
I kind of got bailed out with Gibson taking that starting job there. So.
I find it interesting that he's got Tank in there over ETN.
He's avoiding the London game, Dan. He's taking your advice.
I get it, I guess. No, they're on the same team. They're both in the London
starting
game.
Bigsby. Yeah, I know. I was thinking Tank Dell. Rob has both tanks.
Yes, that's true. He does have both tanks. That's true.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. Yeah, we're good. So.
You know what? Taylor had a terrible week last week, but Bijan's going to get him 7 points. That's 2 7-point guys. You know what? He's starting the Browns defense against Philadelphia. Terrible move. I'm going to go Rob.
Here you go, Rob. Okay.
Rob.
I wrote in
Taylor's going to take back to he named himself the back-to-back L's. He lost last week. He therefore has to lose this week.
There you go. I'm taking Taylor. Basically, my notes on this matchup were I expect big weeks from Bijan. I think this is going to be his first good week. Alvin Kamara, I think, is going to have a nice week. Chris Olave. I don't know how I feel about Spencer Rattler right now, but he did say Chris Olave is the kind of guy that if he's on the field, I'm targeting him. So I think Taylor wins everything. When it comes to offense, I think I even had it. Yeah, at tight end. Did Rob have someone else in at tight end when I was looking? Maybe not. I don't know why I was so big on Taylor, but even I do like Jake Ferguson quite a bit. I think that's going to be the most interesting game this week. If it's not that game, it's going to be the Baltimore-Washington game. Again, another game Taylor has the piece of. But like you, Dan, the only part I don't trust is the Cleveland defense. However, we called Taylor out for that last week, and they still finished with 11 points. The Cleveland defense has actually hit double-digit points for the last 4 consecutive weeks. So while we hate the Cleveland defense, for fantasy purposes, they're not that terrible. But that is the one knock I had on his team as well, Dan. But I am going to pick Taylor to win this one because I think his running backs get on track this week.
I'm going to go Rob. See, you're going chalk. You're taking every team that's projected to win. That ain't going to happen.
I don't even look at the projections. Okay, Taylor told me that he had Taysom Hill and fixed that. I knew there was something going on with his tight end. I don't look at the projections. I go in, I look at the matchups, and this is what I see happening, and I'll take the chalk. Sometimes you got to eat the chalk, Dan. Guys, you're all in the chat right now. You're all in the chat right now. If you guys want to drop your favorite quarterback, your favorite flex play, as I announced last week's winners and me and Dan's picks. So, Dan, we had 4 participants last week. That would be me, you, Darren, and Taylor. And Darren takes down the contest handily. 71 points to my 50. You and Taylor had a battle for last place at 24 and 22. Darren took Lamar Jackson and CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb was the top non-quarterback player in fantasy last week. So it was a great week for Darren. He took it down. Congratulations, buddy. And Dan, this is the cheesiest cheese I have ever done in this contest, ever. But I actually agree with Darren's picks heading into this week, and I'm taking Lamar and CeeDee Lamb as my pick this week because they are my top quarterback and top flex play.
Wow.
I think they're going to do it back-to-back weeks. I'm probably fucking stupid, but that was what I came up with. It won it for Darren last week. I'm cheating. I'm copying, taking it down myself this week. Taylor just threw in that he is taking Jaden Daniels and Bijan Robinson.
So he wants back-to-back L's this week, I see. All right, so I'm going to go. I've been talking a lot of stuff about the Browns defense being terrible, so I'm going to go with Hurts and Hurts and Saquon.
Hurts and Saquon.
Yep.
Picking on that Browns defense a lot. And then Darren took Daniels and Chase. So Darren is in a similar situation to what I was in with somebody last week where they have the same quarterback. Oh, this is hilarious. We've been picking the same players. So you and Taylor took Daniels last week. I took Chase last week. So we truly believe there are like 5 people who can win this contest ever. And we're just taking up those players every week. So Darren got his picks in. Taylor got his picks in. Stevie, I don't know if you turned us off already. Get your picks in. You got about 4 seconds here while Dan says goodbye to our friends. Parting words, Dan.
Love you guys. Have a great weekend.
Straight to the point.
Mason and I are going to play our national championship tomorrow. So
I'll advance that as soon as we get off here tonight. So that way it's ready.
You guys be ready to get this off season done.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go back to back.
Well, the offseason, what do I give? 48 hours. So we got through it pretty quick. I was surprised at how fast we got through the offseason. So let's see if we can pull that off second time in a row. I agree. I hope everybody has a great Sunday, except for Rob P. New guy to the league. I hope it's an absolutely terrible fucking week for you. I need this win. You don't. I would love to give you your first loss. It's a little bit of redemption for me. I know it's not going to happen. I know it's not. But, man, Max Crosby, let's get a 4-sack game out there. You can do it, buddy. That's what it's going to take for me to have any chance to pull off a win here. So I hope it works out well for everybody. But Rob P., guys, thanks for tuning in. Taylor's trying to ask me if I'm trying to play a game of college. I don't know, bitch. I got to see what Marlia wants to do. I'll text you. I don't have time for this. It's time for an outro. See you guys next week. Have a good Sunday, except Rob P.